Anybody been to a restaurant lately? This week, maybe? Did you order food? Did you get a menu? Or did somebody order for you? You got a menu. You placed your order, right? Yeah. Today we're talking about the power of decision, our book, and decision and indecision. Imagine going to a restaurant and letting somebody else pick your food for you. Now, that happens sometimes. I know some people do that. If I was going to a Vietnamese restaurant, I'd probably let somebody pick my food because I don't know anything about that. But generally speaking, we want to make our own selections. We want to pick what we want to eat, what we have a taste for. Yes? So why don't we do that in life? Raymond Charles Barker, in our book of the month, says indecision is actually our decision to fail. Is that true? Indecision is our decision to fail. Because suddenly we're caught up in the backwash of someone else's energy of their decision making. We're getting pulled along with whatever's happening, whatever someone else is deciding, aren't we? Rather than deciding. Deciding means that we are cutting off, that we are making that decision. There's some great quotes in the book. I'm going to tell you, share a few of them with you today around this power that we have to decide for ourselves. But sometimes we forget that we have this power. Sometimes I don't know what to do. I don't know which direction to go. Anybody ever had a prayer for clarity? Yeah, for answers. I don't know what to do. Sure we have. Because sometimes life sends us something that we don't know what to do with. Or we're making a big decision that we're projecting the possibilities into the future of what it's going to mean, what it's going to do to us, to our life, to the lives of our tribe or our community, or our family, our friends. And we're projecting all that based on what? Past experience. And yet, this teaching tells us that principles not bound by precedent. That just because something unfolded a certain way doesn't mean it's going to do that again, because we're God beings. We have choice, power of decision. And when we decide and we set that intention with the knowing of the outcome that we seek, we've used the word already this morning, miracles occur. Miracles occur. So we're looking today, my talk today is, should I stay or should I go? And we are talking about that indecision and decision. And of course, that title I stole from that wonderful 80s song by The Clash. I was going to play it this morning, but it's not quite a church song, so I didn't want to go there. But we face millions of decisions every day, don't we? The alarm goes off. Am I snoozing or am I getting up? That's probably the first decision many of us make of the day, right? Am I snoozing or am I getting up? Am I just going to have coffee today or am I going to have some breakfast? Am I going to pack my lunch for work or am I going to eat out? What am I going to wear? Am I going to choose to be on time today or am I going to futz around the house and not make it quite on time? These are all the millions of decisions that we make. Many of the decisions we make are at the subconscious level. We're not even aware of them. Do you decide to brush your teeth every morning, or is it just kind of part of the process? It's kind of part of the process, I hope. Kind of part of the process. So, understanding how much we consciously decide versus how much our subconscious is deciding can be very important in our lives, because a lot of times we will react and make decisions based on the subconscious that we're not even aware that we're doing. And they may or may not be serving our lives. Brushing your teeth serves you, by the way, but some of these decisions may not be serving us. So with all these millions of decisions that we make every day, why is it that we get stuck on some of these sometimes? Why is it that we get stuck? I don't know what to do. Well, first, it's a bigger decision. And I say bigger just from the standpoint of maybe we haven't made this decision before. Maybe we've never faced this before. And I look at those as an expansion of consciousness. Because the universe has now sent you something new, something different to make a decision about, to decide how you want to grow through it. It's not a problem. It's a decision for growth and how you want to experience that. When we forget our power and that we are individualized expressions of infinite intelligence, that's when we can get stuck. When we forget who and what we are, that's when we can get stuck. Ernest Holmes is the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living. He's also the author of The Science of Mind that we teach from. And he has I don't know if it's a process, but he has a lot of great affirmations in this quote. And it's a long quote and it's wordy like Holmes is, but I'm going to read it anyway. He says, if you find yourself confronted by a problem which you seem unable to solve, instead of thinking about the problem, turn from it in recognition that the life principle, God, has no problems. It's that classic movie line, there's no crying in baseball. There's no problems in God. Know that the mind within you already understands the solution to this problem. State definitely that this mind within you knows what to do. Affirm that you are inwardly guided by the supreme intelligence of the universe. Affirm that everything you ought to know, you already know. Everything I ought to know, I already know. Let's say that together. Everything I ought to know, I already know. Good. Affirm that you are compelled to make right decisions. Know that there's something within you which will not permit you to make a mistake. Does anyone doubt that? There's something within you that will not permit you to make a mistake. Do we always access that something? Yeah, we've all made mistakes. Has anybody not made a mistake? All right, Penny, yay.
Oh, good for you.
So I like that Ernest is telling us to turn our attention away from the problem. And we know this, right? We talk about it every week in our prosperity finders. Focus on what we want more of in our life, not the problems. Last week, we burned away a whole bunch of stuff that we didn't want in our lives anymore, didn't we? We burned it back into the native nothingness because there was absolutely not one ash left when we were done. And then we set those intentions for the new year. So we turned away. Anybody thought about what you burned away? Anybody reached out and played with it a little bit and tried to pull it back in a little bit? Worried about it a little bit? Fretted over it just a bit? No? Good for you guys. Good for you. Building our faith to be able to not worry about that stuff, to be able to trust in universal principle, to stay focused on that which we want to experience, to stay focused on and remember what Ernest is telling us about infinite intelligence is within us, that we have access to that we are guided from within. But what happens? We have a problem. Call our friends, call our family, call our therapist, talk to our everybody, right? Go within. That's where our answers are. Go within. If we really knew this fact, this truth, and we lived it, would we ever struggle with decision? There's no problems in God. Infinite intelligence means just that. No problems. So if we knew that we were that spark of it, remember last week, the zinc? Yeah, we are the spark of the divine. So we have that within us. Would we have problems with decisions then? Barker reminds us that any wrong decision you have ever made will become unimportant when your attention is shifted from it to a creative reason for living right here and now. Have you noticed that in your life? We fret over the mistake. Oh my gosh, I have so much regret. But then we start creating something new and our attention goes there, and it's very easy to forget, and it becomes less and less important, particularly over time. It's actually kind of an affirmative prayer for you. It's kind of a combination of what Ernest said and what Barker is saying. There is one mind. That mind is my mind now, and I already know the perfect solution. In this moment, I am inwardly guided to know everything I ought to know. I am compelled to make right decisions. Barker writes in this book a lot about how we are only consciousness. We are only consciousness. Can you wrap your mind around that? We are only consciousness. We have these physical bodies as vehicles to transport our consciousness and take action in this physical realm. But he says we are only consciousness. And he has a meditation in the book that he does that helps us to realize how disconnected we are from our bodies, particularly when we go within. Have you ever had that experience in meditation where you go within in meditation and you kind of forget your body? Yeah. How does that happen? The other example he gives is about dreams. We lay our body down in the bed at night, and then we have dreams. Now, sometimes it's said that those dreams are the subconscious coming awake, but what if it's truly the consciousness in another realm, doing something else? Our physical bodies need the rest. They're in the bed. They never go anywhere. But have you ever had a dream that was so real? Yeah, we've all had those dreams. What's that about? He suggests in this book that that's about our consciousness, that we are only consciousness. And it's different from the body. It's an interesting part in that book. We'll talk more about that on Tuesday night at 6 o'clock on the Book Study Online. There you go, nice plug for that. So Science of Mind teaches us that we are the individualized expression of God consciousness, but do we truly believe this? Do we truly believe this? It's really important to ground ourselves in this because this teaching is about oneness. That really is what we teach, is the unity and the wholeness that we are with God and each other. It's all one. And so it's important that we ground ourselves in this idea that we are that individualized expression of the divine, that we are that infinite intelligence. And we can then begin to recognize and use our power of decision to direct the course of our lives. When we decide, we're cutting off the static of indecision. Have you noticed when you're dealing with something that there's a lot of static in your mind? Maybe you're writing about it. Maybe you're talking about it. Maybe you're noodling on it. Maybe you're praying about it. Whatever you're doing, there's a static. It sort of overwhelms us and our thoughts about other things because we're so focused on this. And so clearing that static is using our power of deciding, our power of decision. Making a decision is how we direct the law. It's one of my favorite quotes in the book so far. He says a decision alerts the subconscious energies that a sound and solid idea is being accepted. Upon that acceptance, the law of consciousness acts and a new event or situation is born. Isn't that great? I love that because that is a different description of the creative process. It's a description of the creative process. And it all begins with ideas because ideas are the currency of the divine. Ideas are the currency of the divine. Have you noticed in our affirmation that we do every Sunday for our offering that we say, I accept the divine flow of goodness, ideas, and substance through me now? It's because ideas are the currency of the divine. Everything that's happened in your life and my life started with an idea. Started with an idea. My beloved music stand that I've used as an example for 8 years was an idea in someone's mind before it was ever drawn or made or manufactured. You were an idea in your parents' mind before you ever came to fruition. We were all ideas before we came forward. So ideas are that currency. The creative process is just waiting for your decision and your calm acceptance of the necessary work on your part following that decision. Oh, that's the hard part, isn't it? I can make the decision. Yes, I want to be wealthy and happy and healthy and wise and have a great career and all that good stuff. I got to do the work. What? That's the part we get hung up on sometimes. We talk about treat and move your feet here, and that's what that means. Our calm acceptance of the necessary work on our part following the decision. You ever get hung up on that part? It's easy to wish it, want it, pray it, talk to your practitioner about it, but then to actually do the work, make the call, make the conversation, take the chance, whatever it is, that can be the kind of dicey part of it. That can be the dicey part of it. Holmes reminds us in The Science of Mind, which is right along with this, that we must be willing to accept that which we pray for. All of it. Everything that comes with it. Sometimes our subconscious will sabotage us. If we are praying about wealth, our subconscious may be saying, yeah, but what are you going to do with all that? And how are you going to manage it? And it's so scary and takes a lot of time. And your friends and family, what are they going to think of you? They may not love you anymore. Oh my gosh. And all this is going on in the subconscious while we're over here working on and praying on becoming more wealthy. And yet our subconscious is fighting us on that. If it's a new job that's calling to us or a career that's calling to us, and yet we're afraid to make the change, we're afraid to give up what we have in pursuit of our dream. Sometimes we're just not willing to take the necessary action. And that's okay, but it's important to recognize that. And this is where the idea of a long-term goal comes in. Barker asks this question in the book. What is your long-term goal? I had to stop on that one. Because as I've gotten older, I have my annual goal. I have my bucket list, wouldn't it be nice things? But I haven't really set long-term goals for several years. And so I had to stop and be still for a while with that. And as I did, I kind of chose 5 years. It's like, okay, next 5 years of my life are going to be interesting. So I chose that 5 years and things fluttered in, but nothing really landed for me. So I've got some more work to do. Do you have a long-term goal? Yeah, right? Yeah, it's something that just completely went by the wayside. It's like I create in the moment what's a long-term goal. But it's interesting that he brings that forward for a long-term goal because he's teaching us about the law of expectancy. About the law of expectancy. And we've pulled the law of expectancy down to this shorter time frame. And we talk about that. But the law of expectancy sets up the energies within us, the expectant energy within us to expect our good. And when that energy is active within us, it is then aligning with the energy of the universe for giving. So it's the expectation of receiving and it's the giving energy of the universe. So those line up to support us. So a long-term goal is sort of like your vision or your mission in life, if you've ever done a life plan or something like that. And what they do is they help us to have something against which to bounce all these ideas and decisions. And it makes decision making easier. If I have a long-term goal for X, I am not going to do all these Y and Z things over here because they're not going to support it. Remember on the candlelight service, we talked about the 4 quadrants of Covey. And if it's the unimportant and non-urgent stuff, we're not going to focus on that for our long-term goal because it doesn't support it. So it's the expectancy, it's the vision, it's the life plan of having that long-term goal that we're seeking, that long-term goal. So that was food for thought for me. I hope it is for you this week to think about that idea. Because in Science of Mind, we do have a tendency to go, I can manifest what I want right now, right here, and it's going to come in its perfect right time, and we're good. But I understand, too, this idea of the expectancy of the long-term goal and the life plan, so to speak. It's like a life strategy that we have a plan for our lives and what we're going to do. And we decide and we make that happen. So making decisions is not optional. We do it every day, all the time. In fact, you're deciding right now to stay in your seat rather than getting up and walking out of this talk. You're making that decision to do that. And I appreciate it. Thank you. So it's not optional. We do it a million times a day, and it's conscious or unconscious. And that's one of the first things that we learn in the Science of Mind is that the law is always working. It's always working. And it's a matter of whether we are consciously using the law or not unconsciously using the law. And that's really what this idea of decision and indecision is about. Are we going to be consciously using the powers that we've been born with? The power to decide, the power to direct our lives, the power to choose? Or are we going to stay caught in the backwash of the decisions of other people? So let's look at our practicing the principles for this week and see how we can live more powerfully through making our decisions. Practicing the principles is the way that we take the teaching home with us. And we have a newsletter that comes out on Monday mornings called Mindful Monday. And it's a recap of the talk with the quotes and some of the notes and details on these practices that you can use throughout the week to practice the Science of Mind principles. Because if nothing else, we're a relative teaching. All right. So practicing number 1, practice deciding. This week, consciously pay attention to the millions of decisions that you're making. Now, I know it's millions, but at least a few, okay? At least a few of them. See if you can glimpse the process that you use. Are you conscious of those decisions or are these subconscious decisions? And what if you change them? What if you change them? If you automatically hit snooze every morning, some people have that habit of hitting snooze. I've developed it. But if you automatically hit snooze, set the alarm outside of reach, the other side of the room where you have to get up and go over to it and turn it off and choose deliberately not to hit snooze Get up and start your day and see what's different for you about that. That's one little thing that you can do with that very first decision we make in the morning. Am I going to sleep in or am I going to get up? So try that. Pick some decisions and become conscious of them. And again, play around with changing them a little bit. Change them up and see how it feels. It's that old exercise of writing with your left hand if you're right-handed and right hand if you're left-handed, and feeling how that works. Divine currency. Ideas are the currency of the divine. This week, pay attention to the ideas that come to you, that either just pop in your head or maybe they come to you through research or others. Sometimes I can be researching a recipe and something spiritual pops up and I'm down a rabbit hole and I find something wonderful. Facebook is the worst, right? We're scrolling through Facebook and somebody posts a really cool quote or a picture or something, gotta have it. So watch where that stuff is happening for you. Where are the divine ideas being circulated to you from where? Is it a license plate that says something? Is it a billboard? Is it someone that says something in passing? Document what you're discovering in those ideas. If it's something very brand new to you, how are you going to use it? How are you going to use it? And realize that sometimes ideas are for us and sometimes ideas are through us. We may receive it for someone else. Happens all the time in classes and meetings and things. Someone will be sharing and I'll have something hit. And after they finish, I'll say, I don't know if this is for you or not. I know it's not for me, but I don't know if it's for you or not. And this is what came up for me during your sharing. I've gotten to the point where I know it's for somebody. I know it's for somebody and it's not for me, but I know it's for somebody that's listening. So trust that. Trust that. If it's not for you, who's it for? Oh gosh, that would be great for so and so. I bet she would love this or he would love this. Number 3, what's your long-term goal? Play with this a little bit this week and see what works for you. If you have one, revisit it and see where you are on the path to completion. If you don't have one, spend some time in silence, contemplation, and journal about your life and potential long-term goal. Pick a time frame. It can be 5 years or 10 years, whatever works for you. 2, 5, whatever. And use your imagination to choose and create a long-term goal. See what happens. All right, so let's close with a final quote from our book of the month. He says, your goal and your decisions regarding it are vital to you. Spiritual thinking is never now thinking. Finished ideas are not creative. Unfinished business is life. Nature is never satisfied. It is seeking to bring to fruition something better than that which has been before. Nature is mind creating the new and the improved. All evolution is evidence of a progressive mind thinking in new terms to bring forth improvement. This process is in you. In fact, it is what you are. This week, I invite you to accept your place in the universe. It's here for you, simply waiting your acceptance, your yes, so that it can support you in all that you decide. So it is. And it's your turn. We're going to go back to our question and answer. And so I'm going to invite you, if you've got a question about decision, indecision, goal, whatever it might be, we've got open mic for a few minutes. Anyone? Diane.
I know I've said this before, and you talked about having an anticipation, and I thought every morning and every night when I take my hearing aids out, I have that little thing that I often say it more times than that, but I always say, good things are always coming my way. And that's sort of anticipation for what it's going to be today. Mm-hmm. And that really works. I wrote this check for an electrician the other day, and he texted me and he goes, you wrote this for the wrong amount. And I went, oh, he goes, it's supposed to be $80 and you wrote it for $180. I said, oh, he goes, well, I'll come by and tear the check up. And I'm like, thank you. Good things were coming my way. But also you had said many times our unconscious mind is operating most of the time. 95% of the time is our unconscious mind. So this is another reason to focus on, use that 5% on finding something to focus on. And as far as setting the alarm and getting up, all you have to do is get a cat. That doesn't work. Little
True.
Miss Wiggles.
Cats
I made the
dogs.
mistake of getting up early for a few days because of my job at home. That's the time she gets up now.
Trained her quickly. Yeah.
Little tiny wet nose and a little paw like.
Cute. Anyone else? Decision, indecision goals. Beverly.
I'll share a fun idea. Many years ago, I think I was in my 20s when I went through a little workshop on goal setting. And the leader walked us through just a little brainstorming session. And so when you're working this week on long-term goals, the trick she said is if health and money were no object, what would you like to do before you die? What would you like to have before you die? And then just get into a little brainstorming session with a piece of paper and write as many ideas that comes to you. And within 10 years, you put the list somewhere that you'll run into it again in a year or two or whatever. And 10 years later, I ran into it, and I'd done everything on that list, everything.
That's awesome. Great. Thank you. Good tip. Anyone else? Decision, indecision, goals. Damita.
I'm not going to go in front of the camera this time. So I don't know why, but something's standing out about that part about evolution. Like I am evolution. And I don't know that I understand that very well. Can you explain it in layman terms?
Not in Barker terms. I envision a timeline of life on planet Earth. And as I do that, and you see all of the things that move and evolve, we are evolution because we are currently right here today, we are the leading edge of evolution beyond what has come before. We have evolved into what we are now. Now, if anybody's got young kids and how evolved they are with technology and so forth and just their ideas, you can see evolution even generationally in the evolvement of us as humans. So that's what he's talking about, is us as evolution, because we are consciousness expanding. And that's what we teach here, is how can we grow and expand in consciousness? Because if we don't, we're limited to what we are right now. And that's the opposite of evolution, right? So evolving means expanding. And so as consciousness, we are growing that consciousness and expanding that consciousness and therefore evolving. Make sense? Okay. Anyone else? Anybody else? All right. Thank you very much for your questions and your insights. We appreciate you. I love sharing. And let's pray. What do you think? Yeah, let's pray. So I invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable, and let's go within as we recognize that there is one life. That life is God. That life is the one mind, the universal intelligence. It is the allness and the all that is. It is evolution and that which evolved. It is pure consciousness. It is unconditioned love. And all of that is here now, present in, through, and as me, as an expression of it. I am individualized and unique. And as I know this about myself, I know this for each of us here gathered today, in person, online, and those listening later. For I know that we are each amazing manifestations of this divine presence, of this infinite life, this universal intelligent mind. And because we're manifest of that, we possess that within us. And what is not possessed within us is accessible by us through the process of going within. And so in this moment, I know that any decision that we're making, any thing we may perceive as problem, as we take that within and open our minds and know that we have that one mind of the intelligent universe within us, that our answers lie there. And I know in this moment those answers are revealed. That the direction, the decision, the choice, all of it is being made manifest through us right here, right now. And I am grateful for this knowing, grateful for knowing that this is how the law works, grateful for knowing our unity in this, our unity with each other, and grateful for this community that allows us to come together in the one, to practice, to play, to learn, to grow, to expand in consciousness, and to realize our own spiritual magnificence and to see that in each other. And I'm just so grateful for the manifestation of this prayer, grateful for this center and each and every one here. And so I release this into the action of law, knowing that it's already done, it's already so. And I release it and we affirm together, and so it is.